Oh, na me now. Oh, me na. Oh, me na na. Oh, me na. We na na. We oh me na. We oh me na. Oh, me na na na. We oh me. Oh na. We na. We na. We na. We na. Na. We oh we now.
Hello and welcome to The High Ground, a Doof bonus content show where we're adventuring into DreamWorks' Shrek franchise. I'm your tortured gingerbread host, Reuben Morehouse.
And I'm your swampy Urgerhurst, smelly at Diebold.
Donkey!
Nice.
Okay, let me just turn George's microphone back up.
There we go.
Thanks.
Good work. Good work.
One of the advantages of recording with the two of us in the same house now is that I can adjust her levels as she does her intro.
Yes, which
Thank
is a
you.
very wise choice. Shrek 4 Ever After is the name of this film, and that's how it's
Yeah.
meant to be said, I think, with a brief pause between the 4 and the Ever After.
Just so the pun really comes through.
Yeah. All right, and I guess that's the end of our show. Thanks, everybody.
I mean, I'm curious, did anybody else have the same thing with this film as me? I'm just going into like overall thoughts sort of stuff. I genuinely can't decide if this one is better or worse than Shrek 3.
I like this one better than Shrek 3, but I also felt like it was like it had a lot less budget than Shrek 3. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like this movie was actually a better film, but also had less budget, and that does, make a difference in animated films, as you can tell by some of the characters in this movie who look atrocious.
I'd almost say this is a better film, but Shrek 3 was a better Shrek film.
Yes.
Because like Shrek 3 was a shit imitation attempt at Shrek 1.
Yeah.
Whereas this film is just kind of an average kids animated film that's missing like the heart of Shrek.
Yes, there are a number of things about this movie that were very weird to me. About an hour and a half through, or I don't know, most of the way through, I had to stop for a minute and I was like, I can't think of a single pop culture reference that has been in this movie so far, which was like the whole thing, right?
I had also noticed, like, with the soundtrack, similarly, that, I mean, the first two had really good soundtracks. The third one had, like, a really overt soundtrack that was sort of obviously not quite as good as the first two. And then this one, I got to the end of the movie and I was like, I don't really remember any of the songs. There was one song during a Rumpelstiltskin scene that I remember thinking, oh, that's a good song. And I can't even remember what it was now. And that was sort of about it.
There was there's like a recurring joke around like a Hollywood tour bus like Houses of the Stars joke. And then there's like a few moments with Gingy that I think were pop culture referencey.
I can't even remember them.
And that's it. He fights animal crackers in a gladiator coliseum, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a pop culture reference.
Animal
really,
crackers
but I really
are a pop culture reference.
Maybe.
I mean, they're not a fantasy thing.
Yeah, true. I guess they're not like
true.
from, fantasy, but also they don't feel like a pop culture reference.
No, I suppose if that's one of my two examples I can think of, that's kind of selling your point, isn't it? Like, yeah.
I think as the only person who I think from memory has actually seen Shrek 4 previously, I have to say it was not as bad as I remembered, which I thought, why? Because it probably isn't that good. I think maybe that, the first time I saw it, like you were kind of saying, I think I was like, oh, I'm going to see a Shrek movie. And then came and was like, what the fuck? Like, alternate realities? Like, this isn't Shrek. This is weird. Whereas watching it again, my expectations were like quite low, especially after having seen Shrek 3. I think my expectations were super low. So it didn't disappoint me as much as I thought. But I guess I would say kind of like, Star Wars Episode 1 versus Episode 2. I feel like maybe Shrek 3 had higher highs and lower lows, whereas this one was a bit more consistently average.
I think, I feel like this is probably a better by-the-book movie, but that's almost the problem, is it's so by-the-book, it's just kind of nothing. At least Shrek 3 was doing weird shit, Shrek 3 sticks in your brain a bit more and is more of a Shrek movie, whereas this like, you could probably swap Shrek Forever After to be like Ice Age 3 with like 10 minutes of rewrites, and then you just have to reanimate it.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Like, it didn't have that heart of, like, I don't know, kind of the whole thing that all the three Shrek movies had was like the first three was that they did take something and kind of like it was actually like the pop culture references
Yeah.
and the puns and that kind of
Mhm.
stuff, like, and they just simply did not have that
Yeah,
in this at all.
it has its moments. Like I remember having a good chuckle when there was like the callback to the like Beware of Ogre, but it had
Mhm.
been changed to Beware of Ogres, and it also had like scary, shitty pictures of like Fiona and the three kids.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's funny. But like those moments were so few and far between.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, when all the best moments are just the callbacks to the previous films, it's
Yeah.
like, whoa.
No, I do think you summed it up really well, Elliot, when you said, I think this movie is better than Shrek 3, but Shrek 3 is more trying to be a Shrek film, whereas this one isn't.
Yeah, and that leaves me in this weird position where I can't decide whether this is like a step up or a step down. It's such a weird lateral step.
They're
It does
super
better.
similar. They're just
Yeah.
shitty and good in different ways.
Yeah, it's almost like the things that Shrek 3 did the worst at, Shrek 4's done better, but at the sacrifice of the things Shrek 3 actually did kind of good at.
Let's get into it, and we can dive into some of these moments in more depth as we get through them. So yeah, we start back in time, and we're seeing Fiona's parents trying to find a way to break the curse that turns her into an ogre, and they're about to make a deal with Rumpelstiltskin when Shrek saves her, and they find out that she's been saved, and Rumpelstiltskin is so angry that the clutches of the kingdom slipped away by mere moments.
Before we get into all that, can I just ask, what is like? I know that there's like a fairy tale Rumpelstiltskin or whatever. I don't know what the fairy tale is. Like, what does he do?
But before we explain this, I would like to hear your guess at what it is. Based on the
Based on
film?
Shrek 4.
Basically,
Yeah.
mostly on Shrek. Well, I'm assuming he's some sort of like trickster wizard who promises to do things for you, but then there's like a trick and he gets you, and then you don't. I don't know. So I had in my head that he was the hero, like he was the Jack in Jack and the Beanstalk of his
Definitely not.
story.
No, he's not the
No.
hero, but he's also not really a trickster. Kind of, I guess. Let's get into it. So, Rumpelstiltskin is the story of a lady whose name I can't remember, who wants, I think, like riches and stuff.
Classic.
And so she makes a deal with Rumpelstiltskin, and it's something to do with if she can like use his magic loom to weave straw into gold, she can keep it all, but in exchange, he'll get her firstborn child. Right? That's basically the deal that's made.
Yeah.
Is that right, Georgia? It's something like that.
Yeah, I think that's right. Because I was going to say when you said the riches, I was like, there's something to do with a baby.
Yes.
Got there, so I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
this is right. Yeah.
So she does, and they're both happy, and they go on their merry way. She's rich now. She marries a king. Blah blah blah.
Well, she doesn't have to pay to keep her kid fed. You know.
Well, she doesn't have a kid yet, but
Oh.
he says, when you have your firstborn, I'll take it in exchange. Right? She's like, great, thumbs up. Then she has her kid, and then you'll never believe this, Elliot. She wants to welch on a bloody deal, right? And so
Wacky.
yeah, exactly.
She could just have another baby.
Yeah, and well, yeah, but like she made the deal. Like, you know, I mean, obviously it's bad that Rumpelstiltskin is trying to steal a child. Like, it's weird, but like she made the deal.
Yeah.
So Rumpelstiltskin, champion that he is, says to her, "All right, you know what? I'll give you a chance to keep your baby, but here's the rule: you have to guess my name."
And she obviously doesn't know.
Yeah, we've been calling him
name.
Rumpelstiltskin this whole time, but he doesn't. He's not named until this point in the story.
And it's not a particularly guessable name, I think I'd say.
No, exactly.
Almost as though this is the point.
He says, you'll get 3 guesses. If you can guess my name, bada bing, bada boom, you can keep your baby. And so she takes 2 guesses. I can't remember what they are, but they're ridiculous. And he's like, no, that's obviously wrong. I'll come back tomorrow for your final guess. And if you haven't got it, I'm taking your baby. And she again cheats him out of this, again, quite generous deal by sneaking around, following him, and finding him like dancing around the campfire, being like, oh, I'm finally going to get a baby. Oh, I'm so happy. Me, Rumpelstiltskin, blah, blah, blah. And so obviously then she knows his name and wins, and he leaves kind of dejectedly. So yeah, I mean, like, at no point of this, I guess there's a contract there. They probably sign a contract about the young baby or whatever. But, like, he's not like a prankster. He's like, you know,
Just a shitty fae.
yeah, exactly. Exactly right. And that's the story of Rumpelstiltskin.
I mean, I guess the role he fits in this movie kind of feels true to that story then.
Mm.
Yeah.
I do kind of feel like they just wanted a be careful what you wish for thing, and were like, who's the best fairy tale to stick into that? Well,
Yeah.
I guess Rumpelstiltskin tracks. I don't know. Maybe there's more to it.
Which is like better or worse? So Shrek 3, just like, Shrek 1 we had Farquaad, Shrek 2 we had the fairy godmother and Prince Charming. Shrek 3 they just rehashed Prince Charming, and he thought, oh, I've just rehashed him, but I quite liked him as the key villain. Whereas in this one they came up with an original villain, and I found him like not super great. Which was better or worse, the rehashing or the just coming up with a kind of shitty new villain?
I like the new villain. I liked Rumpelstiltskin more than Prince Charming in the third one.
I disagree. I preferred Prince Charming.
There was a sadness to Prince Charming that was more like
That's true.
original or something.
Also, I might be remembering more the good version of Prince Charming's plot that we wrote in our episode, which I maintain is better than what the movie did. And so, like, I'm glossing over how poorly executed he was because I'm remembering how he could have worked.
Yeah.
Hey, can I tell you all something? I was just fact checking myself on this Rumpelstiltskin thing, and I got it most of it. There's some inconsistencies, but whatever. But the ending of this story, when she guesses the name, or not guesses, when she cheats him again, she says, then perhaps your name is Rumpelstiltskin. And he kind of freaks out. The devil told you that. The devil told you that, cried the little man. And in his anger, he stamped with his right foot so hard that it went into the ground above his knee. Then he seized his left foot with both his hands in such a fury that he split in two, and there was an end of him. And that's the end of the story. Is he kind of rips himself in half in anger.
This is a
That's how it
Grimm's fairy
fucking
tale,
ends.
isn't it?
Yeah, it
Because
is.
it's classic Grimm's fairy
It's
tales.
fucking weird.
They should have done that in this movie.
Yeah. Why didn't
That's
he
how
rip
this should have
himself in
ended.
half? That would have been awesome.
She's like, I hate Shrek so much that I'm going to rip myself in half. That would have been
That
so
would have been
metal.
pretty good. Speaking of how this movie is a pale imitation, it starts with a storybook thing again, but like this one is the most pointless of all of them, right? It really has nothing to do with anything.
It's it feels like it's become exactly what they were mocking in the
Yes.
first one. Like the
Yes.
first one opens with Shrek reading the fairy tale, and then it turns out he's like literally taking a dump on it.
Yeah.
And it's like it immediately opens that movie very succinctly with fuck like fairy tale cliches. This one uses the storybook as an opportunity to explain the story so far, basically just straight up telling you a fairy tale. Like maybe the one saving grace is that you find out right at the end that it's like a disgruntled Rumple who is like reading it out. And you're sort of like, oh, okay, so we're hearing the fairy tale from the like disgruntled villain's perspective, I guess, but like that's a stretch. Like it's weird. It feels like
But they did that in the last film, didn't they? Prince Charming.
yeah.
Read it out. So
You're
we
right.
already
That
did
was
that.
a better version of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they did that as as a play where it's him getting his comeuppance. But like in this one, there's no, unless I'm misremembering, Rumple doesn't like end it in any like twisty, ironic way. It just kind of is pretty straight, isn't it?
He just reads it
Yeah.
out like it was in the first one or the second one. Or whatever.
The twist is that it's him reading it is the best I can come up with. But yeah, it's
Which
literally
didn't really land because at the time you
don't know
didn't
who he
know who
is.
the fuck he was. He's
Um,
just some guy.
it would work better. Oh yeah, the problem is it's just a recap. Like what they've used it for here is they're like, oh, we have a device to like quickly summarize the events to people who haven't seen the other films, and that's all it is. It's like the text crawl in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Actually, and sorry, Ruben, you mentioned that like we check in with Fiona's parents who were like in the past going to make that deal to save her.
Yeah.
Didn't we give them tons of shit in the second film because they just left her in a tower? Like, I guess
That's the thing, right? Like her being left in a tower was a commentary on how shitty women are treated in fairy tales, right?
Yeah.
And now they're trying to like turn it into something that has some kind of internal logic. Where the whole point of it in the first film was that it didn't have logic. Like it's nonsense. I
Also,
don't know.
like,
It's
well, yeah, because now we're suddenly meant to believe that Harold and Lillian gave a shit.
yeah.
Like, if they did, why wasn't that present in the second or the third film?
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
Yeah.
also it's like they gave enough of a shit to sign away their kingdom to whatever the hell Rumpelstiltskin is supposed to be, but like they couldn't just go and get her out of the tower. Like who actually put her there? There's not like a curse keeping her there. There's just a dragon,
I
and
think,
who got the dragon? Like it's
yeah, I think
still many questions.
Rumple was meant to also make her not an ogre anymore.
Oh,
So,
was he?
like, I think what they're really at him for is the end to the curse.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, it's just it's weird. Like,
I
it's one of
missaid
those.
that.
It's one of those like sequely moments where you're like, this doesn't really vibe with what we saw in Shrek 2.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that, I think they're just trying to. They just needed a hook, and they went with this, and it doesn't make a ton of sense, but whatever.
I guess they needed a way for Rumple to have an agreement to get the whole kingdom.
Mm. So yeah, Shrek and Fiona are kind of living their domestic bliss, but the days start to blend a bit, and they go away for the kid's first birthday, and things kind of go a bit off the rails. Shrek's not super thrilled with it all.
Yeah, and this is the one of those moments where I started to get excited because I was like, oh, this is a very Shrekky thing. Like they're directly challenging the concept of happily forever after
Mm-hmm.
because Shrek has become totally fucking bored in his happily forever after.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is, of course, the execution again. The end of the movie basically is just sort of like, oh, he fell in love with Fiona and now he happily goes back to that. And I was like, is this going to last like 2 years? Like in 2 years, isn't he just going to be back? Like,
I guess
And
they're
he-
trying to go for like that he was just like he didn't realize what he had until it was gone.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he just needed to have a more of an appreciation for it so that he would like it forever. But I agree with what you said. I like that idea more that they were actually challenging like, the typical story. But it didn't work the way they did it.
the better version of this would have been like, and I feel like the real lesson that this movie should have been about is like basically, I feel like the lesson that he learns here is that Shrek kind of needs a bit of adventure and danger in his life,
Mm.
and like it's weird that he's going back to like he ends this film going back to the exact same situation he was in at the start, and it's like I feel like the moral should have actually been I'd rewrite this so Fiona is also kind of miserable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Because
give
we
Fiona
also-
more of a character, which she seems to never have after
Yeah.
Shrek 1.
Yeah.
But also because like warrior Fiona in the alternate reality is so kind of defined by like her passion and all that. So like give it a thing where Fiona is also miserable and just not communicating that with Shrek. They're both keeping the same secret from each other. They have an argument, like simple classic shit. And then the end of the film should be both of them realizing that actually what they were missing was some more adventure in their life, and they like promised to keep doing adventures or some dumb shit. Like,
Yeah.
that's not going to win any Oscars, but I feel like it's better than what we saw.
Mm.
Yeah, I agree, because the other thing is, you're right, Shrek loved the adventure, and he fell in love with Fiona, but not, he fell in love
Not
with
in domestic
Warworld
bliss.
Fiona, right?
Yeah,
like warrior
exactly.
Fiona. And so I feel like there's a bit of like he's going to be pining for a different Fiona.
Yeah.
He's like emotionally cheated or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's a bit
Also,
strange.
I do just have to say, as I finished saying that, I realize I've just basically reinvented the plot to Uncharted, one of the sequels. So I guess I'm just saying Shrek needs to be Uncharted,
Mm.
because that's essentially one of the Uncharted movies is basically domestic bliss falls apart, and they realize it's because they met on an adventure, and they should keep doing like less life.
Isn't that also
threatening.
National Treasure 2?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good plot. Shrek 4
Yeah, it
could do it
works.
too.
Look, it's been done a bunch of times.
Exactly. That's it. I don't like. Yeah, what's weird to me about this Shrek one is that, like, yeah, you're right, Georgia. He sort of learns this lesson of,
I just need to be bored.
yeah, I didn't appreciate it, but now I can go back to this life I didn't like, but it'll be okay now. And it's like that's not
Just
gonna
because I know
work.
It's not
it
a
could
lesson.
be worse.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah. Well, and the other thing is like, so what is it about his life that Shrek hates? Because they sort
Yeah.
of imply that it's like the monotony
Yeah.
rather. But then it was like pretty well established in the first film, like kind of Shrek's whole shtick was that he just wanted to go back to his swamp and live his same life that he lived every day. Which is also kind of what he's trying to do in this. Like he's just trying to like take his mud bath in peace.
Yeah.
So really it's not the monotony that is bothering him, it's his family.
It's
and
too
his
much
friends,
responsibility for him.
Which
Like,
was
yeah.
sort of also what the Christmas specials point was, is
Yeah.
that Shrek is kind of like a bit of a loner.
Yeah.
And he loves these people, but he also definitely needs some more alone time. And nobody will ever let him have it.
Yeah.
And then anytime he tries to ask for it, everybody's like,
What's
gee,
wrong
Shrek,
with
you have
Yeah.
everything. You're so ungrateful. And it's like, oh, fuck. These
I
people
really-
annoy me so much.
I really want to talk about the birthday party because
Yeah, I've just
everyone
scrolled
is
down to that part of my
so
notes. Yeah.
fucking annoying at the party. And Shrek is so reasonably upset. And everyone's
Yeah.
just like, what the hell is wrong with you, Shrek? When they're all so fucking annoying. Like,
Yeah.
Shrek was a saint in that scene, I think.
When he was keeping it together, I thought, wow, I would have lost it way before this.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's literally the same as the Christmas special, like Georgia said, because he has this, like, he loses his temper and he does a few dickhead things. And it's
Yeah.
like, he kind of owes a bit of an apology for that. But also, what just frustrates me, exactly like it did in the Christmas special, is nobody else ever has to, like, recognize
Change.
that
Yeah.
also they've all completely brushed aside anything that Shrek wants.
Yeah,
I've
it's like, poor
completely
Shrek.
forgotten the Christmas special. It's like slipped out of my mind. What
It's
happened in it?
extremely similar to this.
It's the same premise. They're having a Christmas party, and Shrek just wants a Christmas with his family.
Oh,
But
that's
Donkey
right.
and shit
Yeah,
invite
yeah.
themselves over, and then
And
he chucks
everyone
a
tells
tantrum.
the different stories. Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, but it's like it's literally the same plot where it's like they all don't listen to Shrek communicating with them, cause him to chuck a tantrum, then get mad at him for chucking the tantrum, and never have to reconcile the fact. Like basically, the moral seems to be Shrek needs to stop wanting to be a bit of a loner and
Yeah.
Shrek needs to just
introverted.
change his
Yeah.
values and personality and
He's
wishes
not allowed to
and
have any
conform
agency,
to what
yeah.
everybody else
Yeah.
wants him to be.
being introverted is unacceptable, and he should really be more of an extrovert. Is kind of like the message it's pushing, and it's weird.
It is. And I guess it's somebody who, like, I guess it makes you think about, you know, sometimes you'd watch a film as a kid and you sympathize with like the child characters, and then you grow up like that thing of, you know, when you're a child, you're like, oh, I'm SpongeBob and Squidward's so boring. And then you grow up and you're like, oh, I'm Squidward.
Well, no, I'm Shrek. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm like, but like, am I Shrek because, you know, am I not yet Fiona? Like, I'm like a like 20 something who has like no desire to have kids anywhere near the future. I'm still thinking about like just me and my life and my career and all this kind of stuff. And so the idea of having to give up like my freedom for a family is like horrifying. And so I'm watching this and I'm just like, Shrek, I'm with you. Like Fiona, she's so annoying. She's just trying to make you like just do everything for these kids. Like, because that's my nightmare. So then I guess I think maybe if I was like a mum who had an unsupportive husband, I might be a lot more sympathetic towards Fiona.
That's a fair
But I
point.
guess, yeah, from my point of view, I think poor Shrek.
Yeah, no, I think I think the thing that gets me about the Shrek stuff is like it's just because like they're all acting like if Shrek had his way, you know, he'd just go back to living in the swamp by himself and never have his family. Whereas, like, really, we're gonna get to Rumpelstiltskin's reemergence soon. All Shrek wants is just like one fucking day, and I don't think that's too much to ask.
Not that
Well,
selfish. He wants to have like a mud bath every once in a while.
and I totally get, I totally
all he
get the
wants.
vibe that he would happily then make that up if Fiona asked for the same thing. Like, I don't think he's being silly.
Yes.
He would be like, "Hey, can I have a day just to myself, and then I'll take the kids, and you have a day." Like, I don't think he's being unreasonable.
I don't even think it's that much about his family. I really do think the problem is just
the
his
dog.
friends are so bad at respecting his boundaries. Like,
Yeah.
Shrek has just had triplets, and that obviously changes the dynamic of their relationship. I think if Shrek's friends were going to be supportive, what they would do is bring over a fucking casserole or whatever and then piss off. Like, give them some time. They don't have any time to themselves as a couple or individually. And
Which is weird because, like, we've got two couples here who both have triplets. Why aren't they babysitting for each other? Like,
well,
obvious way out.
Donkey and Dragon have like 8
sex
kids or
couples.
something, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought there was only 3 of them.
No, there's
I
like a
think there's,
million
like,
of them,
4 or
each more
5 at
horrifying
least.
than the
I sort of
last.
try not to look at them.
Yeah, same with Shrek's kids. I think we should talk about this. The animation on Shrek's kids is horrible. Rumpelstiltskin in the first scene you see him looks, I don't even know, like a fucking melted Chucky doll. It's wild. And also the voices, maybe it's just because they've aged, like, I don't know, 10 years or whatever since the first film, but the voices really sounded different to me.
I didn't notice the voices, but I noticed that they were doing a very different effect on Puss in Boots and Donkey's furs. That I actually thought looked better, but also definitely looked cheaper.
I didn't notice any of this.
There is, of course, one perfect character in this film, and that is exactly this weird little kid.
I love you, Daddy.
Who has like 5 lines, but is so fucking funny.
Easily
Oh
the
my God.
highlight
So,
of the film, right?
Hannah and I saw this whenever it came out, and this has been like something that we like consistently say.
Yeah.
But like even recently would still say it. Like it's so funny.
This is an in-joke the two of them have had for like 15 years now that I finally get.
Yeah.
There you go.
I just like, it's such a simple thing, but they've got what is clearly like a 50-year-old smoker to play like this pudgy 7-year-old kid.
I love
it's just so funny.
He's so prissy. Like, he's got the lollipop.
He's got the big lollipop.
Yeah, there are.
So good. That was really good.
It's like Shrek random. I love it. It's so funny.
Easily the highlight of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rumpelstiltskin does some great manipulation, promises to give Shrek everything he wants for one day, which, I guess. It's weird. It kind of like, then the rest of the film takes place in 24 hours, but it feels like there's a lot more than can happen in 24 hours. It's strange.
Sure.
Anyway, unfortunately, Rumple takes a day from Shrek, the day of his birth, and so Shrek never existed. It is thrust into this alternate reality where he never existed. But for some reason, Lord Farquaad doesn't come back, which is, I think, what we were all hoping for.
I had a big paragraph written about that.
Can I ask about the rules? So Rumpelstiltskin takes the day that Shrek was born, and so then he never exists.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, he could have taken a day when he was 1 year old, and he wouldn't have existed after he was 1 year old. Like,
it doesn't quite track.
It doesn't quite.
I was trying to
sense.
think, like, which day is he going to take that will make such a key point of difference? And I thought it was going to be the day that Shrek rescues Fiona, right? I thought, if he takes that day, like, that will have enough ramifications. But then, no, just like Shrek never existed, and it's kind of weird. I don't know.
I just rolled with it.
Yeah,
I mean, the thing that really jumped out to me, and this really justified what the rant we just went on. The reason Rumpelstiltskin is able to manipulate Shrek like this, like, his manipulation basically amounts to just actually being a good friend to Shrek for like 10 minutes and hearing him out.
Yeah.
And like, that's all it
Totally.
takes. Like this dude's willing to basically sign his life away after 10 minutes because Rumpel just treated him like a human being for 10 minutes.
Yeah. He walks in and Rumpelstiltskin goes, "Would you like one of your favorite drinks? Would you like to have a laugh? And then tell me about your problems." And Shrek's like, "You can have whatever you want. You didn't tell me to be more extroverted. You just,
He just fucking heard him out.
Nice.
It was like, honestly, I don't think the movie gave that enough credit. Is like, Rumpelstiltskin was a clever manipulator, but also like Shrek's fans made it so fucking easy by setting the bar so low.
Yeah, I really liked Rumpelstiltskin in this scene. Like, it was just so much fun to watch his plan play out perfectly.
Yeah.
I liked it also they didn't just have Shrek be like, "Oh yeah, no, sounds good." Like, I actually liked that they had, Shrek, this character who we've grown to like because he, he's sort of the character who's always been the straight one.
Yeah,
like
he's
the
a
one
very
who's actually,
reasonable character.
Yeah, he's a very like logical guy, and he actually is pretty skeptical like the whole time. He does take some convincing, and I was like, I really appreciate that. They didn't just make him like suddenly stupid. He spent the whole time really like, trying to, what's the catch? Like, tell me more about it.
And he falls for what I would have said is a pretty obvious catch, but at the same time, he has his guard down because he really is enamored with Rumpelstiltskin because this guy had this has been the best friendliness he's had in like a year. So when the guy says trust me, he fucking does.
This is going back a bit. I meant to say this earlier, but did anybody else find it really weird that they told the same story every night and still are entertained? I haven't had a child, and I know that is apparently something that kids do.
That's a kid thing.
No, yeah,
But
that's
the adults seem way too into it, except for Shrek. I'm like, that must suck.
Mom, one time, like when I was staying at mum and dad's place, like you know how mom just like leaves free to air TV running all the time.
Mm.
On ABC on like Sunday morning one time, like a year ago, Brum came on, which is like this BBC like show for preschoolers about a car that drives around and saves people.
Mm.
And mum was like legit traumatized because we had a VHS of Brum when I was like 2, and I watched it about 3 times a day for like a year. And so it's just like she just couldn't handle when Brum was on because she's just been brummed to death. And so I actually think like, yeah, it sounds like that is what it's like when you have kids. It's like I just watched the same 2 episodes of Brum like 400 times.
Kids are so dumb.
What's annoying is I didn't even recognize it when it came on. Like I was that
I've
young.
I've only seen it 400 times. You can't expect me to remember it.
It was like when I was 2, so it was too early. Like, you know, I can remember the shit we watched over and over when I was like 5 or above, but like what a waste of time. I spent like a year of my life watching Brom and I don't even remember it.
Oh, what a bad show to pick as well. It's not a good show.
I wouldn't know.
So yeah, I mean, like then Shrek gets to for a bit live out his dream, and it's really fun. Like Shrek's just kind of going around like fucking with people, like being a prankster basically, and it's just you can really feel how much fun he's
does
having.
He is actually just a prankster.
No, he's just kind of like having a good time. You know, it's great.
Yeah, this scene is just really fun because he's having a blast, and there's like some joy in like the inversion of him having fun getting like chased out of town with pitchforks. Like, it's such a weird fantasy to have. It is a little weird because that was explicitly what he was trying to get away from in Shrek 1. But I guess that's kind of the point. Like again, there's this weird feel to this movie where it feels like the movie's almost saying the grass is always greener on the other side and you need balance or something, and then it just doesn't do that. But this scene is so good. There's like one bit where he starts surfing across rooftops, which was weird. But
went, what?
Yeah, I had the same reaction. Like he's suddenly fucking Tony Hawk all of a sudden. It's very
and it went
weird.
for like it went for a little bit, and I thought, oh, he's gonna land on the ground now. And then it's oh no, he's still going. Like it went for like a few seconds too long.
Yeah,
but yeah, like the bit where he's like, they have the callback to where he scares all the villagers, and then he's like, "This is the part where you run away." Like,
but he says it with so much joy. He's like, "Yay! This is the part where you run away." And they're like, "Oh, the callbacks, best parts of the film."
So yeah, then we get into oh no, actually, there's bad stuff here too. Twist. Shrek is captured. He finds out that Donkey is now like just kind of leading this cart of witches. Yeah.
Although Donkey kind of doesn't seem to mind.
No, he's almost like a Uber driver. Is the vibe that I got.
He does get whipped a few times.
That's true.
Yeah.
He didn't seem to enjoy that.
No, but then like later on, he seems to be like really friendly with a bunch of the witches. It's weird.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway. It's Donkey, I guess.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that's fun. He escapes from Rumpel, who has captured him to prevent him from messing up the plans, and then finds himself in like a ogre underground rebellion led by warrior princess Fiona.
Yeah. Where the fuck did all these ogres come from?
Where are there more ogres? Is the question that this film raised. Like, are there other ogres in Shrek's reality, or is Shrek being born somehow like
destroyed
a genocide for ogres? Yeah, it's very strange to think.
They were like, we've peaked. We'll just stop here with Shrek.
Well,
why are they all so much bigger than Shrek?
And Shrek's parents still have never appeared.
No.
This has been bugging me since Shrek 2. We've just heard Shrek had a bad dad in Shrek 3. That's like it. And now we're getting introduced to all these other ogres, and there's still no concept of like Shrek's family, which, like, considering this is a film about the family he kind of has lost at this point, like he lost his kids, bring his parents in, have them be like in a really bad spot because of this war and because they never had their son. Like,
that would have been cool. Also, because like is Shrek like an outcast ogre? You know, because is that why we've never seen them?
Maybe he's like a runt, because the other male ogres are huge.
They're much bigger than him.
Twice
like,
as big as him.
Bigger than him.
Yeah.
They're all bigger than Shrek and Fiona. Yeah, they're like the two.
It was a weird choice. Like it was just a weird choice because it's every scene with the ogres. All I can think about is like, why is Shrek and it's like so small?
Yeah.
What
John
happened to
Hamm is
Shrek?
huge in this.
Yeah. Can we? I just need to say I really did not enjoy the John Hamm ogre.
Yeah, it was very weird,
because it was like it's this really weird, uncanny valley of like he was super hot, but also
he was an ogre.
Yes. It kind of reminded me of Center World when they do the handsome face spell.
Yeah, yeah.
Or like I think they do it in SpongeBob as well, where they do like a
Sexy
serious.
Squidward.
Yeah, exactly. It's that kind of vibe of like really unsettling, but in a way that's like quite symmetrical and like, you know.
Yeah. It short circuits my brain because I'm like, part of me is going, he's hot, and the other half is going,
an ogre.
Yeah.
Grab your torch and pitchfork.
Yeah, like it's a real weird space. But yeah, because the other thing, do all these ogres just not exist in the original reality, or do they all hate Shrek because he like is cool now? I mean, my other thought was, maybe Farquaad killed them all in the original reality, and that was what first led me to think, where the fuck is Farquaad?
Yep.
Bringing him back would have been so cool.
It would have been such a wasted opportunity.
When Shrek is looking for Fiona, he goes to the tower and he finds her favor, which has like an F on it, and I was like, oh shit, like is she with Farquaad? Like, are we going to see Farquaad again? And we don't, and it was so disappointing.
I think the F was for Fiona.
Yeah, I know, but I thought it was the Farquaad thing.
I mean, I can sort of like, you know, in my head be like, oh yeah, Rumpelstiltskin might have killed Farquaad or whatever. Like, there's excuses, but it's just that thing where this is that kind of sequel that doesn't even address it, and that makes me sad.
Yeah.
Like, we've never seen him since the first... Oh, his kingdom just hasn't been talked about since the first movie. And that's sad.
What happened to Duloc?
Yeah.
Nobody knows. But in this Shrek revival that I'm writing, you're going to find out.
Maybe it comes up in Puss in Boots.
Maybe. I doubt it, but maybe. I really enjoyed hearing Kristen Schaal as a witch. That was fun.
Fuck, I did not recognize her voice.
You didn't recognize her?
Which is
it sounded
weird.
Exactly like fucking Louise Belcher.
I was about to say, it's not like Kristen Schaal has a, you know, blending in voice. Like,
voice. I didn't notice that either.
Recognize her voice.
How did I not recognize
I'm very
her
disappointed
voice?
in
I've
you
seen
all.
her do so much voice acting.
I kind of want to touch on how not grounded this film is at all, right? Like,
so you're talking about how this alternate reality Shrek film isn't grounded.
No, but you know
Into
what
the
I mean?
Ogreverse isn't
Like,
grounded.
Because the first two Shrek films, while fantastical, were very much set in a world that had some rules. Whereas in this one, Shrek just starts skateboarding around on like a sign, and it's weird.
Yeah, and like similarly, just now that there's this rebellion of seemingly somewhere between 20 and 200 ogres, and like it's this classic thing so many franchises do. They've chased like scale, so now there's like all these faceless ogres, and it just kind of takes away from the personal level of the film.
Yeah, I see what you mean. You know what I did like though? I liked that. I mean, we've sort of always complained that Fiona, since the first film, has been like pretty bland. I quite liked Warrior Fiona, even though she was a little bit silly. I wish they'd done, like you said, Ellie, when you said that, I was like, yes, that's what I need to do, is like acknowledge that Warrior Fiona existed in the Fiona that we know, and that, she's a badass and she should rediscover that and start up her karate again or whatever. Because I quite enjoyed Warrior Fiona and like, career driven Fiona who doesn't want to fraternize with Shrek despite it being obvious that they're true loves. Like I liked that.
Yeah, again, Fiona just getting shortchanged by this franchise.
Yeah, but at least they did a little bit, even though it wasn't the regular Fiona. I like that they at least gave some kind of time and energy to like a new Fiona who was like pretty badass.
Yeah, she was great. I really enjoyed Warworld Fiona.
It's just a shame because that was only to service Shrek's plot. Like she needed to be like that, so she was harder to get. Like, yeah. Whereas if they tied it into her own thing and she had her own arc as well, that would have been
that's
better.
really true. Now that you've said that, that makes me so sad.
Some stuff goes on. They introduce the Pied Piper as a villain who's kind of fun. He captures all the ogres except for Shrek and Fiona, who are rescued by Chonka's Puss and Donkey.
Chunky Puss.
And then they need to kind of go rescue them. There's a lot of rescuing people from castles in this movie. It kind of just goes back and forth with one group rescuing another group and then the previous group rescuing that first group again and then kind of repeat a few times.
Yeah, which happened in Shrek 3 as well, from memory. The Pied Piper is very much that like King Arthur in Shrek 3, where it was like there's not really a joke beyond it's a reference. Like I guess they do funky dances and his flute has like funny settings.
His flute makes people do a fucking really funky dance and it's never like they never get into how horrifying it is. They kind of like play it lightly, but it's really horrifying.
I was going to say, I really like how whenever the people are like popping and locking, they're going, make it stop. Like that one ogre is like, I can't stop. It was hilarious.
Strange stuff.
It was strange.
I think this is also around the point where earlier while we were watching this film, I said to Georgia, I can't decide if I love or hate the dragon donkeys. They're so upsetting to look at. And then the film even makes that joke where Shrek explains to Donkey that he has half dragon children. And she's like, are they cute or upsetting to look at? And I was like, oh, good. So they're not sure either.
But Shrek can't really talk because his kids are very strangely animated. It's really...
the one thing I liked was when they had, like, they were all riding dragon to go visit far, far away to get to the B-Day party. And the little ogres were like riding on the backs of the little donkey dragon hybrids. And I was like, oh, that's a bit cute. They were riding them around. What if like one of the mutant babies was just born without wings? Can you imagine how sad that would have been?
That would suck.
Or if just one of them couldn't breathe fire. Donkey has no traits that would be missable.
Yeah, it's just a good point. Dragons
what if one of them couldn't talk? That is Donkey's defining trait. I don't know. Well, are they too young? Because like none of the kids in these films talk at all. I suppose they're only one.
Shrek's daughter says a few things.
Oh yeah, she's like, "I love you, Dad," or something.
Yeah,
that's not talking.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. It's not like they've not got like voice actors.
She's not maintaining a conversation.
No. So I don't know. I don't know whether the donkey dragons can talk. They haven't said a word yet. Maybe only one of them can talk, but never learnt to talk because they just only heard. Would they speak like Eddie Murphy? I guess they would. Because he's like, I was going to say he's the only person they hear talk, but they go to Shrek's a lot. Maybe they'd have Scottish accents.
That would be fun. Half donkey, half Shrek accent.
Get Eddie Murphy to do like a high-pitched Scottish accent.
Oh my God.
I remember I like had a French teacher back home, and she was telling us once how there was all these Sudanese refugees came to live in Armidale, and she was giving them English lessons, like she's a language teacher. So she's like, now there's all these Sudanese kids walking around speaking English and French accents in Armidale. I was like, that's so funny.
It did make me laugh how desperately Shrek was trying to get a kiss from Fiona, although it being a little bit harassy.
What I said when that scene came up, I was like, I mean, you can't blame him for trying that. Like, he had to try. When he just was like, he's like, I'm really sorry. Like, what is it? And then he's like, well, a sorry hug. And then sorry, all right, and just a sorry kiss. And she's
Yeah.
like, what the fuck? It's like, yeah, it was worth it. Worth a try.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing. There's like a few moments where he gets a little bit of salty, but yeah, the ones that are funny are the ones where he's like almost trying to trick her into just a casual little kiss. Like, yeah.
She's like,
What-
no.
Like, yeah, the one where it's
So
like, oh, sorry
silly.
hug, sorry kiss. Like, that's genuinely funny because you could just see on her face, she's like, the fuck is this guy's problem?
Puss in Boots, Chonky Puss. I love when he's like, is it true? Have I let myself go? And she's like, no, of course not. Who's the pretty kitty? I am. I was like, oh my god, that's me with my cats. Where are they?
Yeah,
They've left the room.
God. The one of the cats here is starting to get a bit round around the edges.
I don't know what you mean start. It's been months. He's looked like that. He's a fat cat. Well, I don't know that he's that fat. The other one's just super skinny.
Maybe
He's perfect, actually.
he's not.
Yes, he is.
So yeah, Shrek decides to give himself up to Rumpelstiltskin so that the ogres and Fiona can be safe. And this is the point at which I kind of stopped taking notes on the film.
Yeah.
Because it was just kind of like, everything happens pretty much how you'd expect from here. I had no more notes.
Yep.
But wait, did Shrek give himself up so that the ogres could be safe, or did he do it so that Fiona would think that he was noble and dedicated to the cause, and so would fall in love with him? Because that was how I read it.
See, I didn't. I got the impression he genuinely had
Yes.
given up on himself.
I think that's what that's definitely what he and the story want us to think, is that Shrek is actually being noble here and not just trying to
It's
win
not like
Fiona.
a 4D chess move. Yeah.
Yeah, but it does work out.
Yeah.
Well, because I think just before this, though, there's like that scene where I think Donkey or Puss or whatever is saying something like, oh, no, she's just really dedicated to the cause. Like, that's what she loves or something. And then Shrek kind of has like a little light bulb moment. And that's when he goes to give himself up. So I think that was why I read it as him trying to make a 4D chess move.
I legit wasn't sure for a little bit, but I just don't think it's the kind of movie where the hero does that. I think it is just like...
Well, it's like they had a writing team and somebody on the team thought that was a cool idea and then it got forgotten about and then it sort of just ended up in the movie and then everyone was like, yeah, we'll just leave it.
Yeah.
And yeah, everything works out. And that's the end. I don't know. I don't have anything else to say about it, to be honest.
Yeah, God, didn't anything of note really happen?
Not at the end.
Really.
I wanted to discuss, because the ending to this one very quickly establishes this is the end of the franchise, like the end of our story.
Yeah.
And it's a bad ending.
No, it is. It is.
Like, it's just, it's wild that you have Shrek Forever After, which opens with challenging the idea of forever after, but ends with, actually, I just want forever after.
Yeah, no, actually, we're right back to where we started. But just Shrek is accepting of this now.
Yeah.
Shrek knows that it could be worse, and so he decides to accept that this is his fate.
Like this movie just has a bit of a vibe of they were a bit checked out when they were making like by Shrek 3, interest was sort of dwindling. They were all contracted for a fourth, and they're like, "This is the last one. Let's get it out the door.
Yeah.
We can move on to more exciting projects like Puss in Boots."
It's kind of just like a really like convoluted sort of elaborate just gaslighting of Shrek into like, no, actually, you really like your life. You're actually really lucky.
That's
he's like,
what this movie is about.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. I just need to be more grateful. Yep, I'm the problem.
Because there was that line that Fiona said to him when they were arguing. There was something like, "Why can everyone see that you have everything you ever wanted except you?" And I was just like,
it was so
Fiona,
gaslighty.
They're all so annoying.
Why can't you see that these people need to just give me 5 minutes of peace?
Yeah.
That would be my response. Poor Shrek.
The only person who I think could have put more pressure on Shrek was Do the Roar. That kid was fine.
Excuse me, sir. I believe you promised my son one of your famous roars.
Do the Roar.
I want to talk about one other scene that I liked, which is there's this scene where Rumpelstiltskin is having like a meeting with the witches to express his displeasure in them. And the way he threatens them is by offering them a glass of water. And I just found that really fucking funny.
I'm not gonna lie, it took me way too long to figure out. I was like, has he poisoned
No,
this?
it was
I don't get it.
It was only after one of the witches was like melting that Elliot goes, oh, Oh, yeah.
Took me far too long to make that
I
connection.
thought it was very fun, a very good moment.
Yeah, that was good. I didn't mind the goose that for some reason was involved.
Yeah,
the really
that
large
never
goose.
paid
I have
off, huh?
no idea
Was
what
that
it had
meant
to
to be
do with
like
anything.
the golden goose or
I
something?
think
I think so.
Yeah.
But it was
But-
like it had teeth. Like
Yeah.
It was just used for a bunch of not very good background gags, just very consistently. Like, not really. Like, you could cut it from the film and lose absolutely nothing. But I
Yeah.
liked it, so I'm glad they kept it.
It didn't have a payoff though, which is weird.
Yeah.
Why has Georgia written Minecraft here? Can we talk
I
about that?
did not write that.
Okay,
You told me to remind you to ask Reuben about his Minecraft link.
Oh, so Reuben, I
Okay.
heard a story that you had a dungeon in Minecraft. I was gonna try and like segue it in somewhere, but I'm too tired.
Is
Apparently,
this
so I'm
related
just gonna.
to Shrek at all?
No.
Is this
No,
just
not at all.
a completely
I just keep
different
forgetting
thing?
to mention it. Elliot told me about your Minecraft dungeon like a couple of months ago, and it sounds awful.
I'm not fully
Do you
sure what
remember-
we're talking about here.
Which torture dungeon? Which one am I
think
referring
know what we're
to?
talking about now.
You had like a villager farm. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
for reference, I've only played Minecraft for about 5 hours, and it was with Reuben on the old Doof server, actually.
Yeah.
And that was where I was introduced to your like House of Horrors, where you had people locked in cages to
Mhm.
generate diamonds and shit.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
funny.
Yeah. What's weird about that?
Because it came up in a conversation. I think when we were talking about how, I think we're talking about like Pikmin and like how for some reason, even when like beings aren't real, you have still this strong sense of empathy, and you still like don't want to. Like I hate like hurting people who aren't baddies in a video game, even though I know it's stupid. And then Elliot brings this up, and I was like, "What the fuck, Reuben?"
Yeah, weirdly, I have that same thing where I will almost always play like good characters because I don't like bringing harm to things in video games. But Minecraft doesn't count. Nothing's real in Minecraft.
Well, I saw one of my bosses was playing Minecraft in an operating theater, and
Wait, sorry.
Yeah.
That is my explanation. You can't just skip
just
over
between
that.
cases, I kept coming in. He was just on his laptop playing Minecraft.
Wow.
And so I walked in one time, and he's like showed me around his Minecraft area. I have never played Minecraft. And he showed me like, oh, these are my buildings. They're kind of like on with the like Japanese style of architecture, and like here are my sheepies, and like here's my little piggies and stuff. And
Did
I'm
you
like,
have them condensed into battery farms? Because that was what kept happening on the Doof
Yeah.
server.
I don't think so, no. They had some room to move. And I was like, this is such a sweet game. Like, I'd always heard that, like, Minecraft was really great because it was all about, like, building and not about,
Yeah.
like, destroying. And I was like, this is so nice. And then I came and he showed me all these, like, little livestock. And I was like, look at all your little animals. And then I left and I came back, like, later after another case. And I walked in and he was just killing horses. And I was like, no. And there's like little like love hearts leaking out of them. I was like, oh my God, it's turned into a horror.
Yeah, horses are really traumatic to kill in Minecraft.
He was just slaughtering them. He's just walking around. He's like, yeah, I need the meat or something. And I was like, oh my God, this is horrifying.
Yeah,
I
man.
remember first logging onto the Doof server, and I think it was like Dawn showing me around. And I just sort of wandered off for a bit by myself, and I found all of these like empty villages as I was traveling around. And I like came back and I was like, oh, it's kind of cool that they like give you some pre-set up buildings. Like I found all these empty villages, which presumably you can use to like start up. Turns out, Georgia, those don't start empty. Those start with people in them. It was just all the people who were playing on the Doof server had kidnapped them all to put the people in farms.
Or they had died. They also can die from natural, things like zombies and stuff. In fact, they were safer in my
Like, when
basement
you
than
die
they
from
were
a
in their
zombie attack in
village.
nature.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Wait, so-
natural disasters like tornadoes, earthquakes, zombie attacks.
So your argument is that they're better off alive,
Yes.
suffering for eternity.
Not suffering. They had very neat 2x3 little cages. Okay. And I would come and I would feed them bread and they would give me emeralds and books. It was a pretty great system.
Only bread. That makes me think when I was a kid and I used to think that people who were in jail only got bread.
Wait, why?
I don't know. I had this you know how there are just those weird things that you believe
Yeah.
as a kid,
Yeah.
and then one day you go, "What the?" I just had this thing, and I don't know where I got it from. That I thought that if you were in jail, you could only eat bread and you could only drink water. Like you were not allowed to eat or drink
I don't
anything.
understand where that
And I
Did you get that
also
from
thought-
Les Mis?
I have no idea. And I also thought that there was this hilarious time. I thought that if you ever did anything wrong, that you went to jail. Like there was no. And so one time,
Yeah, we
Mum
let you watch Les Mis too young, I think.
And so one time, Mum, this is when we were in Perth, so I was like 3 or something,
Mm.
and I remember Mum telling me once, she's like, "Oh yeah, your dad got caught speeding," which FYI is like a common occurrence. Like he's a terrible driver. Anyway, and so he got caught speeding, and I was like being the really good daughter that I am, I went, "All right, how are we going to get him out? How are we going to break him out?" And Mum's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, well, how are we going to get Dad out of jail? And she's like, you don't go to jail for that. I was like, huh. So Dad can eat whatever he wants, I guess.
He got away with it.
He can eat meat and cheese.
See, it's weird that Mum would challenge stuff. She always used to indulge my misconceptions.
No, I guess Mum's pretty dumb. I was about to go break into prison, Elliot. I probably would have been successful too. I'm here for my dad. What? Who are you?
Hand over the dads.
These people need to eat, not bread. This is outrageous.
I brought frozen veg.
You bring a loaf of bread that has like a hole cut out of it and it's got a Snickers in it.
What do you think a 3-year-old would bring to feed people?
Probably
like
yogurt.
Skittles.
Yeah, Skittles or
I'm just imagining like some civil rights movement to let prisoners eat raisin bread to like push the barriers.
They should be able to eat bread with raisins in it.
That's what we call prison reform, Elliot, and it's a big
Yeah,
deal.
yeah. Well, look, I mean, obviously, like end goal, we want to get them some protein, but like we can't get there all at
Work our
once.
way up there. Goes raisins, grilled cheese, and then maybe a BLT if we're lucky. So yeah, I guess that's Shrek. Are we doing Puss in Boots next?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's the final Shrek movie.
For now.
Mm.
And we don't currently, we have a plan for our interlude, but we don't actually have a franchise for after that at the moment, do we?
No, we will stay on the line after we finish this recording to maybe talk that out. But if listeners have suggestions, please send them to us.
Yep.
Hit Reuben or I up on Discord.
Twitter.
Hit us up on Twitter,
Yep.
Patreon. Just send a message to Doof. Like, however, if you have a suggestion,
If you have thoughts on a series that you liked when you were a kid, and maybe we'll reevaluate and find it not as enjoyable.
we'll enjoy the first half and then dunk on the second
the
half.
series that's good for the first half and then goes to shit is basically our MO here, isn't it?
It's accidentally turned into that. Yeah,
Except for Star Wars, which was the opposite way around.
yeah, true.
Anyway, bye
Cool.
hoy, listeners.
Bye,
Bye, hoy,
listeners.
listeners.
Get out of
Get
our
out of our
swamp.
swamp. Reuben, now you didn't do it this time. We've never gotten a good take of this one.
That was our worst yet, surely.
And scene.
na na que na o que na o na na que o na que now na mi o mi o que now o na mi now na que o na mi o que na o que na mi na que na que na o na que o now na que na mi o now o na mi o que now na mi na que o na mi que o na o que na now na mi que na o que o na o que na o que na o na o mi o na que na mi o na o que o na o que o na que o na o que na o na que na o que na o na que